Welcome back, everyone. As always, I'm excited to continue our learning and growth together as we continue to reshape the face of education here in our school. In an effort to reduce the amount of information dump style faculty meetings that are often a necessity during the beginning of the year in service, I have turned both of the general nuts and bolts presentation and the discipline system presentation into an online lesson that can be done in your own time. Expectations for when the web presentation has been viewed and understood will be clarified at the start of our in-service. Hopefully folks will find this to be an easier and more time-saving format for receiving this information. So first up is the general overview of teacher expectations in our school. This presentation has been designed as a companion to the staff handbook and will highlight the major expectations for teachers listed therein. There are some nitty-gritty details in the handbook that are not listed here, so it is important that all teachers review the handbook as well. So here goes. We'll begin with the contracted teacher day. Several years ago, we moved to a flexible 8-hour day. The standard day for teachers is 7:45 to 3:45, but teachers do have the ability to regularly come in earlier or later and leave earlier or later pending my approval. If you would like to have a different arrival and departure time, you will simply need to fill out the 8-hour day planning form that will be available during in-service. On another note, often folks will come to me to explain that they may need to leave early for an appointment. You do not need to fill out the 8-hour planning form for this purpose. Just see me and let me know what's going on so that we can make appropriate accommodations. Teacher absences. It's really critical that you contact Debbie Shover as early as possible if you know you'll need to be absent for a day. Deb checks the school voicemail at 9 p.m. and again first thing in the morning. The earlier you can call in, the better. If you have to email your plans to Deb, please make sure that you CC me and submit the plans before 8 a.m. Also, all staff members need to fill out an absence form either before or immediately after an absence, and then note the absence in their iVisions account. Substitutes. Besides general absences due to illness and such, our teachers and staff engage in a lot of professional development opportunities. This professional development greatly benefits our students in school in terms of instruction, and we will continue to support staff in accessing these opportunities. That said, this means that we utilize substitute teachers quite often. Substitutes that have all the items listed here are more likely to be able to manage your classroom, follow policy and procedure, and ensure learning is continuing in your class. Subs that do not have clear and detailed lessons, current class rosters, or a daily schedule struggle to maintain the class. This not only results in poor management and minimal learning in your class, but often becomes a larger community issue during times like AT or study centers. The point is to make sure that you have set your sub up for success by providing them with the materials and resources to succeed. This is just a reminder that any unused sick or personal time adding up to over 50 days will be bought back by the SU at the end of the year at the rate of $25 a day. So for instance, a teacher with 60 sick days at the end of the year would get paid $250 for 10 days at $25 a day, bringing them back to 50 days. The following year, the teacher would receive another 15 days, bringing them to 65 days. Attendance. It's really important for our management of student accountability that teachers take attendance in the first few minutes of class. If students come in after attendance is taken, please do your best to remember to mark them tardy. If they do not get marked tardy, they will be considered absent, and in some cases that ends up appearing as though the student is skipping class. So to avoid an unnecessary wild goose chase for a student, please try to remember the tardy. The easiest way to open up a few minutes to take attendance is to have an entry task ready for students as they come into class. This way students can mentally transition to your class and its content while you take care of this obligation. As always, do not allow students to leave class early. You are responsible for the management and whereabouts of your students until the final bell of the period. This is just a reminder that all teachers are expected to provide appropriate supervision of their students for each class period assigned to them. Don't leave students unattended for lengthy periods of time, as this is a liability issue. If you need to leave your class for any significant amount of time, let the main office know and we'll have someone come cover for you. Do not let students leave their class before the designated time. This includes study halls, support centers, and all AT times. Please also be sure to remind your subs of this in your plans or class expectations. Food and drink. Over the past few years, we've gotten better about consistently enforcing the classroom ban on soda and energy drinks. Anecdotally speaking, I think we've seen better behavior from our kids because of it. Pounding Monster drinks and 2 liters of Mountain Dew in classes is a recipe for disaster in terms of behavior and engagement. So let's keep pushing the issue here. Unfortunately, we don't have the legal right to ban these things from our lunchroom or hallway, but we'll continue to work to reduce the use in these areas as best we can. Teachers should set individual expectations for other drinks and snacks in their classrooms. Hallway supervision. Once again last year we sort of fell off on this mainly because of the vast majority of students congregated in the main lobby or athletic hallway. Jim Starr, Sergeant Lynch, Chris Brigham, and myself are often circulating in these areas, so they're generally covered in terms of supervision. However, in years past, students would congregate in very different parts of the building, including the academic hallways upstairs. This year, we'll wait to see what the congregation patterns are before we set expectations for morning hallway duties. In the meantime, I'm requesting that teachers get out into the hallways in the morning to greet and socialize with students over the first few weeks. This is a great way to reconnect with students and get to know our new students. AT is a unique structure that our school implemented 2 years ago to provide students with access to their teachers for support and enrichment, as well as an opportunity to offer specialized supports and programming for our students during the school day. With their teacher advisor support, students have choice around who they wish to access each day. The scheduling for AT is managed through Enriching Students, a scheduling program that will be reviewed for those who are unfamiliar with it during our in-service. Last year we went through various cycles of students being allowed out of their scheduled classes to do a variety of things. The errand running or request to see Debbie Shover at the front desk all lead to times when we had handfuls of students hanging out at the front desk, wandering the halls, or slipping into other classrooms to see friends. This all becomes a distraction from the purpose of AT. If AT is going to continue to work, students must go to and stay in their scheduled AT class. We need you to actively manage this by taking attendance, reporting missing or extra students, and disallowing students to run all of the various errands they request. This includes finding their scheduled place through the front desk. Students should be directed to find their scheduled location using their own device. I know that the vast majority of teachers and students find the support structure very beneficial. Let's not let it be ruined by the lax supervision of a few students. Advisory. This year advisory will take place on the first student day of the week. This means it will usually be on Monday as opposed to Wednesday. This change was made based on student and teacher feedback last year. This year there will be a number of critical tasks that will need to be completed through advisory, which is why it will be important for advisors to be on the same page across the school. This year we will also be using a beefed up weekly plan for advisory called Hive, which we will share during in-service. While Hive is not a word-for-word script, tasks will be outlined in this document that will need to be completed during advisory. These tasks should not take up all of the advisory time each week, which will allow opportunities for each advisory to have their own unique style and flair. Of course, the most important part of advisory is connecting with students. Building strong and supportive mentor relationships with students is a strength for our teachers and staff, and advisory is an opportunity to build off that strength. Curriculum mapping. Once again, there are no expectations for high school teachers to use Rubicon Atlas to curriculum map their courses this year. Our focus will be on proficiency-based learning systems and practices throughout our classrooms. There may be some work done during Academy on updating essential maps, and I would strongly recommend that any content area that has essential maps use them as you design the scope and sequence of your units this year. But in terms of recording your units and lessons via Rubicon Atlas, there are no expectations this year. Grades. As you all know, we will begin straddling 2 grading systems this year. These are basic expectations for grading assignments and the use of PowerSchool under the traditional system for students in grades 10 through 12. If your practices deviate from these expectations because of shifts that you're making to grading in your classroom, the shifts and reasons for them need to be discussed with me and must be clearly outlined in your syllabus so that it is clear to both your students and their parents. Remember that there is a hard close on grades at the end of each semester, which is when grades are stored. Teachers may choose to keep their grades open for improvement between quarters 1 and 2 and quarters 3 and 4. LIFT. Beginning this year, all teachers who have 9th grade students will be required to use LIFT for tracking student progress towards mastery of the indicators you have selected for your courses. To do this, teachers will create one classroom rubric that identifies each of the indicators that are being taught and assessed in the course. Teachers will also need to create and assign goals for students whose steps can become evidence of mastery for a particular skill or indicator. This will be a critical part of our in-service, and teachers will have time to both create such goals for the start of the school year and access individual help in creating goals or simply managing the system. We will also focus on the fact that students can achieve mastery of an indicator taught in a given course no matter the grade or difficulty level, as well as the moratorium on assigning mastery for graduation until we are a little more comfortable with the system after the first quarter. Exams. The big change here is that we have moved the date of exams to the 5-day stretch before the holiday break. The semester will end 4 days after we return, giving us some wiggle room if a 3-day snowmageddon occurs the week of exams. We will once again use the schedule we developed to correspond to our 8-period day. The schedule for exams will be shared as we approach them. All teachers must have either an exam or activity planned for this time. This year I will consider requests from teachers to not have an exam or activity for a particular class on a case-by-case basis depending on circumstance. Please remember that your semester and year-long grade setup in PowerSchool should reflect whether or not an exam is given and should be noted in your course syllabus. The website. 2 years ago we moved to a new website platform to great success. The new site is much easier for students and parents to use and navigate, and it has truly become a great information resource for all of things going on in our school. In order to maintain its usefulness, we need to keep it as updated and current as possible. So please use it to inform the community about your special events or student successes by submitting articles to Nicola Cribb, Gabrielle Marquette, or myself. Also, please be sure that your profile is updated on your personal page, and your syllabi are embedded or attached to the page, and your grading structures are clearly described. Evaluations. All first and second year teachers will receive 2 evaluations. The first evaluation is a full classroom observation, and then at the end of the year there is a summative evaluation. Many non-probationary teachers are due for evaluation and will receive 1 summative evaluation. I will let you know during in-service if you are in evaluation this year. Summative evals will be informed by teach point walkthroughs, direct observation, and surveys. Everyone in evaluation must submit professional goals for learning this year. Staff meetings. Given our needs for professional learning this year, we are continuing to assess how we can use the limited time that we have to ensure as many needs are being met as possible. This is why we're looking to reassess how we use IT and whether that time could be used more productively in other ways. We are also making some tweaks to Innovation Hour, and we'll be using a small mixed group cohort model to learn and grow with LIFT, proficiencies, and verification. We'll look at this in further depth during in-service and beyond. The Principal's Desk. This is the primary manner in which I can keep everyone updated on the weekly issues and events occurring in our school without having a faculty meeting every week. I do also try to keep everyone up to speed on the trajectory of our school through my reflections, or sometimes I just like to share new tools and resources that I've come across that might support you in your work. Please take a few moments to read the desk early on in the week so that everyone is on the same page in regard to what's going on with our school. This is the statement that the board approved last year that affirms our commitment to upholding the rights of our transgender students. As most of you know, last year there was a significant learning curve regarding this issue for all of us, students and staff members alike. In essence, the state policy affirms that gender is self-identified and that students and staff have the right to access the facilities associated with that gender. EFHS will continue to uphold these rights as we enter the new school year, and in doing so will continue to engage students and each other in the sometimes tough conversations that lead to better understanding. If you have a question or concern regarding this policy, or if you are having a difficult time talking about this issue with students should it arise, please feel free to involve me or members of the school counseling department. In terms of mandatory reporting, it's important to remember that all faculty and staff are considered mandatory reporters. If you have any question about something you have seen or heard that could potentially put a student at risk of harm or neglect, come speak to an administrator or guidance counselor. If a report to DCF is required, then we can make the call together. Just know that it is now part of the law that the person who initially took the report or observed the neglect has to make the report to DCF. An administrator or counselor can do that with you, though, so please be sure to reach out if you think you have a report. Here's your yearly reminder on FERPA guidelines. The thing to remember here is not to discuss personal information, whether it be about a student's behaviors or grades, in a public setting or with people who do not have an immediate reason to have this information. This includes the age-old example of the parent cornering you at Hannaford's or at a soccer game to talk about their kid. Those public spaces aren't FERPA approved, and you'll have to ask that parent to set a time to meet with you at school. Again, here's a list of things you can do according to FERPA. Directory information at our school includes student names, phone numbers, and public awards. Just remember that the key with sharing any of this information is that the person receiving the info has to have a legitimate educational interest in the information being shared. If you have any questions about that, please see me. Finally, I'd like to talk about recycling. Vermont's Universal Recycling Law, which the legislature passed unanimously in 2012, bans the disposal of recyclables and organic materials on a phased timeline throughout the state. The law also requires that recycling containers for baseline recyclables be provided wherever trash cans are located in all public buildings. Under the law, providing recycling containers is mandatory at public, municipal, and regional schools, and private schools are encouraged to do the same. So we want to make sure that we are emphasizing and reinforcing with our kids that we need to be recycling. So what are the things that we can recycle? We can recycle metal, such as aluminum and steel cans, aluminum foil, and aluminum pie pans. Glass, such as glass bottles and jars from food and beverages. Plastic, such as a wide variety of plastic containers. And paper, such as corrugated cardboard, white and mixed paper, newspaper, magazines, paper mail, envelopes, box board, and paper bags. All of that can go in the blue recycling containers that should be in each and every classroom in the school. Please do your best to encourage students to use those containers, not the trash cans, for anything that can potentially be recycled. Additionally, teachers should compost when using the faculty room and are strongly encouraged to compost in their classrooms. If you would like any more information about composting, how to manage composting in your classroom, and would like to receive a small composting bucket for that purpose, please see Lisa Perry. And that's it for the nuts and bolts. Remember to review your staff handbook for clear details on your expectations as a teacher, as well as to review the most recent laws and regulations pertaining to your work with kids. Thanks for listening.